Maybe you can relate to this, let me know. When most people start drawing a soccer ball for the first time, they get the circle and they start putting in hexagons and other kind of weird shapes, and it is impossible to get it right. It's just one of the hardest things to draw. It is a mystery. Well, hopefully we can do better today. I'm going to walk you through my step-by-step method to drawing a realistic soccer ball. Let me start with the materials I'm using, and then I'll show you some alternatives that you can use if you don't have access to these kinds of materials. So I'm using Staedtler Mars Lumograph Black. This is an HB. For the people in the US, that's a number 2 pencil. If you don't have an artist pencil, no problem. You can use just a regular school number 2. You'll need an eraser. I'm going to be using a kneadable eraser, also called a gum eraser. It looks like that. If you don't have one, you can just use the eraser on the end of your pencil. And I'm also going to use this little eraser. This is a Tombow Micro 0, and that'll just be for some fine details. For blending, I'm going to be using this blending stump. You can get these at any art store or even on Amazon. If you don't have one of those, you can use a cotton swab. Okay, with that, let's get to it. I firmly believe that in order to draw a soccer ball well, you need to know how the shapes connect, and that will involve a little bit of theory. If you're not into it, no problem, you can skip ahead. But for those of you who are interested, this is knowledge that is good for your brain. Okay, I have a geometry template here, and we're not using them for the soccer ball drawing, but I just want to show you the shapes. Look at this one here, a pentagon. It's pent. That means 5. And then the other one is a hexagon, and hex means 6. So it's a 5-sided figure and a 6-sided figure. Notice that the length of the figures for the hexagon and the pentagon are the same length, and that's how they fit together. On a soccer ball, all of the black shapes are pentagons. They all have 5 sides. And all of the white shapes are hexagons. They all have 6 sides. Another thing to note about the soccer ball is that every hexagon, so every 6-sided shape, is attached to 3 pentagons. And they alternate, so it goes pentagon, hexagon, pentagon, hexagon, pentagon, hexagon. Okay, so keep that in mind when we start our drawing. One more thing is you can't draw hexagons and pentagons together on a flat surface. There'll always be this little space. And that's bad for a drawing, but it's good for making a soccer ball because it will create that 3-dimensional sphere. Speaking of 3-dimensional spheres, on a ball or a sphere, lines aren't straight. They're not perpendicular and parallel to each other. They curve around. You think about a globe. So it's a little bit difficult trying to translate how straight lines curve on a ball. But that's okay, we're going to work through it. Alright, now let's rough in a circle. With soccer balls, I always like to start with the shape that's closest to the middle. And the reason is, that shape has the least amount of distortion. Once you get out to the sides, the lines look very curved, and the shapes can become quite distorted. Okay, that's the first hexagon done. I'm going to draw another hexagon here, attached to that first one. Now with 2 hexagons drawn, we know pretty well where a lot of the pentagons are going to go. Add one in. I'm trying to keep the lines almost the same size. And pretty straight. And just add another pentagon here, and there'll be a third one underneath here. Follow that pattern of hexagon, pentagon, hexagon, pentagon. Notice how the shapes become kind of squished as you go toward the outsides. That's to do with that distortion we were talking about. We're going to have another pentagon at the top, which means this one will be a hexagon. And there's a hexagon there and a hexagon there. If you like this video and you're new to drawing, please please do consider my book, The New Artist's Guide to Drawing. It has everything from the face, the body, animals, landscapes, and more. So something else you can probably note at this point is that no two pentagons, no two black ones, touch each other. So every single black pentagon is surrounded by 5 white hexagons. That's good to know. And as I'm getting closer toward the outsides, the shapes become more distorted and squished until I'm happy to draw my circle. Now, if this were a really, really careful drawing, I'd probably put down a circular template, but I'm just going to do the whole thing freehand. Okay, the next step is to outline your pentagons a little darker. And the reason why we're doing the outlining is that we're going to erase the whole thing, but we want to have these kind of ghost lines where we see what was. So the darker outlines will be left after we erase it. So now I'm just drawing all of the pentagons. I'm not coloring them in yet. That's important because we're going to shade it later and give it a really realistic look. I think you'll like it. Okay, I'm grabbing a kneaded eraser and I'm knocking back the drawing. That's a term which means you're not erasing it completely, but you're erasing all of the very light lines. You should be able to still see a lot of your major lines. Okay, I've lost some of the lines that I do want, so I'll just pop those back in now. To the next step, don't use the tip of your pencil. Use the side of your pencil. We're going to shade the whole thing very, very lightly. Now you do want to do this extraordinarily lightly because part of the ball is white after all. When something is white, even if it's in extreme shadow, it's still fairly light. I'm shading it darker on the bottom and lighter at the top. And I'm going to leave a spot right in the middle for a highlight that's not shaded. Okay, let's blend that in now. You can use your cotton swab or your blending stick, whatever you have. And very lightly go around the whole ball, except for that highlight on the top center or center left. Okay, I'll put a little shadow in now. Just around the bottom of the ball. And then I'll also blend that in. Now with the shading done, we can get to the coloring. So I'm going to color in all of the black pentagons. Now I'm not going to color them all in with the same intensity of black. The parts of the pentagons that are in the highlight, I'm going to actually do quite light. And you'll see that in just a moment. There's a little pentagon on the side here. The ones that are in shadow, I'm going to color them very darkly. And the ones that are in the highlights are going to be a little lighter. That'll give us a nice effect. Okay, let's talk about this pentagon. Some of it is where the highlight is, so on that right side. So I'm going to have that fairly light and then have it darker on the other side. And same thing with this one on the top. It's going to be lighter where the highlight is and darker elsewhere. Now with my blending stick, I'm just going to blend everything again, just to give everything a little light treatment. And now grab my eraser. This part will make your soccer ball really pop. I'm going to erase lines outlining the hexagons. If you don't have one of these little Tombow Mono Zero erasers, you can use the side of a regular school eraser. And this will give me a little pop to the soccer ball. And I'm just noticing now that part of the ball where I'd like it lighter is just too dark, so I'm going to just start cleaning it up and erasing some areas. I'd just like to thank you all for making it this far, And remember, you can support the channel for free by giving me a like, a comment, even sharing the video. All of that boosts the algorithm and is greatly appreciated. Until the next time, happy drawing.